Hey, what's going on YouTube? Belton here. Going to drop a video today talking about how it was that I was able to make enough money to work on some of these mirror crafts I've been doing over the last little while. In particular, the Glyph Hail here, which is the 6 tier 1 best in slot perfect bow. Made a video about that last night saying how we spent 2,200 divines working on that, and that obviously rose. A lot of people were asking how that was made currency-wise. As well as throughout the whole other process of making various other mirror crafts or high value crafts. And even though a lot of this was on VOD, actually all of this was on VOD, you can find that on my Twitch. I did actually try to do this a couple days ago, 3 days ago in fact. I also did make a post on my community section explaining why this was delayed a bit. What had happened was my OBS crashed and I lost the recording. However, I did find it on my stream.
Hey, what's going on,
in the recordings
guys?
here, and so you can see there's a big long session here, 3 hours long, where I'm going to go through much more detail. I'll link that full VOD in the video in the description below. But I figured, you know, since I got that craft out of the way now, I can just do it over again and explain to you guys the strategy, the underlying thought process, and you know how it was I was able to make so much money doing that. So from the video, this again was 3 days ago. What I did was the first one. You can see I did 3 different batches of crafts. The first one was 6 divines of materials. Second one was 16.5, and the third one was 21 divines worth of mats. And from those, I made 53 divs on the first, 72 on the second, 116 on the third. And I made 408 divs, which 3 days ago was 1.48 mirrors. This was over a 6-hour stream, roughly, or 6 hours of a stream. I streamed unbroken for 90 hours. But there were over 200 people watching throughout that whole process, which is important in this respect because obviously if people are watching what you're doing as you're doing it, you can assume a certain percentage of them are going to emulate whatever it is, in particular if you are having a great degree of success with it. And in spite of that, it was still very, very lucrative and continues to do so, continues to be so. And for those of you who are, you know, on the lower end of a budget, this is actually something that is quite cheap on a per unit basis, but it's something that we're going to try to do en masse because there's a variety of different permutations and sort of codependent variables that are going to impact the sale price greatly. And a lot of this is going to come with some practice here and being able to spot certain valuable combinations, but I'll do my best to explain that as we go. So what we're going to be talking about today is crafting breach rings. And we're going to be doing that for several reasons, not the least of which, though, is that one of the primary indicators and probably the best indicator of an item that has a lot of value in the long term in terms of scalability is how many ways that can it be multiplied or can it scale, right? So if you think about a ring or a quiver, for example, those are both very good high value targets at the moment because a ring can be duplicated with Calandra's touch, right? So if you have a very good ring, you can essentially double it for a low cost. And then you also have the Ingenuity belt, which can get upwards of a 97% increased effect from your equipped rings, right? So that means that if, say for example, you made a mirror ring as it were, you could then get basically another free mirror with your Calandra's touch, and then your belt would, a max roll version of the belt would basically double that again. So from one really perfect ring, you can get 4 of them, right? And so if you can maximize the value on a per unit basis of one ring, you can get a tremendous amount of value from it. And value is really what we're looking for anytime we're crafting something. So this is why breach rings are the target, because breach rings have the implicit effect that maximum quality is increased to 50%. And that is going to be a base multiplier to whatever modifiers you have that fall within the affix pool that you choose to catalyze. Now, with respect to affix tags, the best way to find those out if you're unfamiliar with them is to go to Craft of Exile or to use PoE. Either one will work. And for this case here, we can go to rings. And you'll see here these little different tags. So we got Chaos, Lightning, Attack, and you can do that here so we can get it and it'll narrow it down for you. Now, specifically with breach rings, because it gives 50% quality, right? You want to compare that in terms of value to the base implicits that are available on all the other ring types. Now, because affix tags are done by mod groups, you want to try to get as many valuable modifiers that are tagged the same way that you can catalyze, because if a normal quality is 20%, right, that's giving you a 20% multiplier on a individual mod, right? But if you have 3 of those mods, then you're getting 60% additional value on that, right? And so that's kind of like having, instead of having 6 affixes, it's kind of like having 6.6 affixes. Now, because a breach ring gives 50% quality, that's 50% strength of an individual mod, and quite often it'll be the most powerful mod on that item. So if you can get 50% quality over multiple strong ones, if you get at least 2, you're getting essentially an additional modifier of your choosing from that breach ring. Now, if you can get it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then also have that done with Calandra's Touch, and then also have Ingenuity, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value. Now, what's cool about ring crafts is that they're pretty low input cost, and there are a ton of different ways that you can find different variables that have value together. You can actually even sell magic rings for a divine or 2 divines that are not very difficult to get. And again, as I mentioned, all the input costs are quite low. Now, I did pull this up. These are the chat logs from the game itself, because looking at these chat logs, you can see the sales. So what I'm going to do right now is I have the search term breach ring listed, and we're just going to go through just so you can see how many of these sales and how often I get messaged for them. Okay, 8 divines. All right, gotta change it to up. 8 divines, 12 divines, 12 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 7 divines, 2 divines, 225 divines, 3 divines, 4 divines, 2 divines, 1, 1, 1, 8 divines. Same guy spamming. 1 divine, 1 divine, 2 divines, 225, 3 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 225, 2, 2, 2, 18, 9, 5, 2, 1, 5, 2, 2, 1, 4, 4, 9, 2, 1, 2, 1 divine, 9 divines, 5 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 1 divine, 1 divine, 15, 1, 15, 10, 8, 1 mirror, 1 mirror, 1 divine, 4 divines, 1 divine, 8 divines, 2 divines, 5 divines, 2 divines, 2 divines, 250 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 1 divine, 1 divine, 9 divines, 3 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 2 divines, 2 divines, 7 divines, 7 divines, 2 divines, 2 divines, 2 divines. I'm going to stop reading these out. I'm just going to click very quickly so you can see how many of these there actually are. And these are happening consistently, and this is over a 2-day period, right? When I was talking about the batch crafts, I did approximately 500 rings over 3 different batches, and I have sold probably about 150 to 200 of them. And at this point, I would say I've made at least 2 to 2.5 mirrors off of this. Now, I realize that these values to some of you guys just sound so high and so disconnected from your experience with the game that it might sound like it's not really a real thing. But I just want to give you some indication here as to how much currency is really available in these higher end markets. Here's one night, for example, at the beginning of the league when I made a first mirror quiver. You can see how many people tried to mirror it for me that night. There are probably 25 messages for it there. Within an hour and a half of finishing my mirror quiver today, I was able to make 150 divines off of Fub Gun, another 150 divines for a mirror service, another 150 divines for a mirror service. So that's 1 mirror in less than an hour. Here's the bow that I crafted at the beginning of the league. There's 100 divines for a mirror service there. Here is the quiver craft that I had at the beginning of the league. There's 50 divines for a mirror service there. Here's the bow. After it got beat, I just sold the original for a mirror there. Did the same thing with that quiver. There's another mirror there. And so there is a lot of currency floating around. This is also, as well, you can see how many people are messaging for breach rings, glyph hail, which is the mirror quiver, mirror, 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 mirror. There is a lot of currency floating around, and if you can have a high value item, again, whether or not your anecdotal experiences really line up with this, you know, it doesn't invalidate the fact that this does exist. So don't be like thrown askew by this being like a large disconnect from your lived experiences. I assure you it is very, very, very lucrative, and it is very replicable, and I'll show you guys how to do that through the thing here. I actually had this attached, which is sort of a written guide, a very, very surface level one, when I was doing this on stream 3 days ago when I first originally had it. So you can see that there, and I will also attach this original video here. So for this one, I do a much longer preamble explaining all the permutations and stuff. And you can see that I did a very, very large batch mirror craft here, or sorry, batch craft. This was, I believe, 330 breach rings. Now, since I don't want to just post that and tell you to go watch the video, I'm sure one of you guys want to see this live. So what I'm going to do now is I have set up 120 breach rings. As you can see, I have 2 mirrors, 12 divines, all the materials required here. Here are the essences that we're going to be using, augments, chaos, all that sort of stuff, exalts. And again, this is very, very lucrative. There are a lot of ways to make money with this, but it is somewhat nuanced, and there are a ton of things for me to comment on. So if you're someone that's here for like a 5-minute video, wondering how it is I make a mirror and a half a day off of something like this, unfortunately, I cannot. If you were able to condense that into a 5-minute video, the mirror and a half part wouldn't really exist, because understanding those nuances and where to spot that value is why there is such an inefficiency in the market. So I understand the impulse for it, especially if you're a new person. I'll do my best to explain the things in the simplest and beginner-friendly way I can, but that's going to take a little bit of time. And so if you are invested in trying to learn how to make currency through crafting and stuff, this will be a very good tool for you probably. But again, don't expect this to be a 10 or 15-minute video. Now, here you can see I have marked off all of the different modifiers that have value on a breach ring here. And so we're going to put, I'll link this as well, the search below the description of the video. We'll put a count here, right? And so what we're going to do as we price these things out later on, and I'll explain the pricing strategy after we do the batch craft, but we can use this as a quick way to parse through different modifiers and just uncheck and check things based on certain breakpoints or values. Furthermore, I also put together a spreadsheet here specific to this crafting session, just so you guys can see what our input costs were. And I also attached a photo of that search in case for some reason the attached link does not work. But this specific session here, we've got 18.44 divines. And that's for 120 of them. And I also am counting the fact that I spent 4 divines of exalts, 3.6 divines of chaos orbs, 3.6 divines of greater essences. Sorry guys, that's fine. That was incredibly polite. Sorry YouTube, but we're gonna do a mirror service here. Interruption. But anyways, what I was saying though there was that you can do this obviously to a smaller scale or with less currency, and you certainly don't need to pick up multiple divines worth of exalts or chaos ahead of time. I just wanted to overshoot the amount of materials that I would need just to ensure that I wouldn't have to go buy things in the middle of the craft. Again, it's unlikely that this is going to be a very quick, condensed video, as it were. But I will do my best to make it as palatable as I can, I suppose. Thank you, Nerf. There we go. So there's 600 divines that we've made in the past couple hours off that. All right, so now let's talk about the specifics of the breach ring here. What is our specific strategy going to be? Well, we talked about the ways why a breach ring is good in terms of scalability, right? Why that's a high value target, but it's also predicated on being able to get the maximum value from affix tags, because that is how catalysts work. And so when it comes to that, I'm going to move away those breach ring sales there. When it comes to that, we can look through a variety of different modifiers. And the one that I think have the greatest value is if you look at ones that are attack tagged, you have Fizz to attacks, Lightning to attacks, Cold to attacks, Fire to attacks, Fizz leeches mana, and Fizz leeches life. So there are 6 potential mods on there that you can get that 50% on. You can get 4 separate mods that can scale with attributes, and there are 5 separate mods that can scale with mana. Now the problem with the attack catalyst is that the Fizz leeches mana and Fizz leeches life are not that great, and also you have prefix and suffix, which can confuse things a little bit, because crafting is generally broken down to, when you're doing it on a higher end, if you can get like perfect prefixes or perfect suffixes, especially with how omens can swap between the two, and you can focus on one or the other, it's far better to have something that is like 3 max tier prefixes than it is to have something that is like 2 max tier prefixes and 1 max tier suffix. Because once one side of it is done, you can almost think of it as like 3 separate crafts. Have your base as like almost one part of the craft, and then your prefixes as one part of the craft, and your suffixes as one part of the craft. And you can treat all 3 of those almost independently, but that's a video for another day. Then with mana is probably one of the highest value mods that you can get on one of these rings, particularly the mana prefix. These ones here are actually not really worth a ton. If you get mana regen combined with a high flat mana roll, that is quite good. But aside from that, the mana regen by itself doesn't have a ton of value. But again, this suffers from the fact that the flat mana is a prefix and that these 4 mana mods are all suffixes. And again, with these ones, you have it so that the Fizz Leech's mana and life are both suffixes, and these ones are all prefixes. However, with attributes, they are all suffixes. Now, why is that important? Well, because all 4 of these are best in slot to some extent if you are playing something with like Hawa, or if you are playing an attribute stacker, which is a high budget build. It's a popular build, and so there's going to be a lot of demand for it. Plus, attributes are good for basically every build. They're necessary on a variety of levels, but the fact that all of these are suffixes is actually very strong, and it's a core part of the strategy here, because the way that essences work now on the base level is that it upgrades a normal item to a magic item with only 1 modifier, right? And since it's an attribute modifier, that means that this is always going to add a single suffix, which means there will always be an open prefix, which means no matter what, we will be able to use an augment after using this essence. And as I pointed out, the valuable mods that exist on both of these are the prefixes, right? So if you look at this one, these are both suffixes and we don't want those. These are all suffixes and we don't want those. So by using the attribute one, not only do we hit modifiers that are very, very strong, that have small amount of tiers, and all of those tiers are equally weighted. So if we look at attributes, they are all a weight of 250. Dexterity, they're all a weight of 650. Same thing for Dex and Int and Strength. And they also have a high weighting pool. You can see here, that's 16,600 out of 70,000, right? However, if you remove this just to attributes, you can see that if we were to do that, we can take a look and we see to hit just tier 1 strength, for example, that's a 1 in 26 by using an essence. However, since it's an attribute tag, we can put a tier 1 for all 4 of these. And now you can see it only takes 8 essences to get a tier 1 modifier. On top of that, after you do so, you'll be able to augment for a prefix. So if you're going to go then look here, we can wipe these away and we can do open prefix, right? And then we can take a look at all of the valuable modifiers here. You've got Fizz damage to attacks tier 1. You've got lightning damage to attacks tier 1. You've got fire damage to attacks tier 1. Cold damage to attacks tier 1. Flat mana tier 1. You've got flat life tier 1. You've got rarity tier 1. You've got lightning damage tier 1. Fire damage tier 1. Cold damage tier 1. And chaos damage tier 1. Now obviously not all of these are going to have a ton of value combined with any random one of them, but each one of these modifiers at a tier 1 has value in of itself if it hits a subsequent modifier. So if, for example, if we hit a very low tier one of the attributes, but we augment and hit a tier 1 of one of these, we can absolutely regal, right? And by regaling, you might hit one that pairs perfectly with these. Not to mention, as I said, the flat attack-based ones are very, very high value because of the capacity for them to scale all 3 prefixes with the 50%, and the mana is also incredibly strong too. And if we look here, what do you know? So this is a proxy for augments because we're just looking as if there were only an open prefix with an Exaltador, which is the same effect an augment would have here, and it's a 1 in 12. So as I said, we have a 1 in 8 to hit tier 1s with the basic essence on a very valuable attribute mod, and even if that doesn't hit, we then also have a 1 in 12 to hit a tier 1 on the prefix with the augment, including the very high value, as I said, mana and flat modifiers. So very, very strong in that sense. And essences of the infinite are very, very cheap. They have gone up a bit since I made the original video. I was doing this to a great degree of success on stream, but you can see you can get 3 of them for 1 exalt, which means 1 divine can get you over 400 of these. So it's basically a 0 expense, right? And then if you look for the augments, obviously cost very little, and the greater essence too, which is if you do hit a tier 1 attribute mod, for example. So if, let's say we hit tier 1 intelligence, we can then use the greater attribute modifier. And again, because the only attribute tagged modifiers are these 4, we'd have one of them removed. It is a very high chance that you would hit a second one that is either tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. Almost half the time you'll hit one that's within those top 3 tiers. And because you can catalyze them similarly, and you can use the same catalyst, you can then raise it so that the values are much, much higher. So on trade searches, people will see them and they'll assign a much higher value. For example, some of the ones, let's see if I've got a couple lying around here. Right, you look at one like this, right, where that's got double tier 1 int strength, but then like only tier 3 dexterity, right? Then you've got ones like this one here, right? That's triple tier 1 prefixes with the triple there. This one's triple tier 1 attributes. You've got the rarities and the resistances. That's another thing too. Rarity you can get on the augments, right? If you're trying to focus an augment or you focus your first essence onto something like mana or whatever, you don't close the door on it. But if you end up hitting a crappy suffix like a low range mana on kill, or what else do we have here? Or mana leech, something like that of 0 value, you really don't have too much of a out, or you don't have really too many outs there in terms of what you can hit thereafter. However, rarity is always an option, and rarity is still very valuable. On a breach ring, rarity, I wouldn't say it has a diminished value, but there's no way to catalyze it. And catalyzing is a very core part of this, and it's going to be a huge contributing factor to the profitability of it, because a lot of people do not bother catalyzing their crafts when they're just sort of throwaway ones. As you just saw, I got that message for the 1 divine ring, and I actually have a folder here, and you can see how many of these breach rings I have lying around, right? When they're just low range or mid range rolls, again, we're looking for some permutation of these modifiers I pointed out earlier, right? But some of these by themselves, particularly a tier 1 mana, but if you get like any kind of double rarity roll, or if you get any double tier 1 suffix or tier 1 attribute rolls, so dex or strength or int, whatever, any double tier 1 resistances, anything like that, there are so many valuable combinations that you can get, and in particular when you can sort of obfuscate or hide, in case you don't speak English, as your first language. Not if you didn't speak English, I suppose that'd be difficult to listen to, but you can sort of like cover the sins of the worst parts of your craft with the catalysts as well. In particular, the ones that are going to be of special note to us are the neural catalysts, which is for mana, and the adaptive catalysts, which are for attributes. And so if we take a look here, just so you guys can see, I do have the prices again marked on that spreadsheet, which I'll share with you. But the neural catalyst, like it's 5 to 1, basically 4.5 to 1, right? And then you're looking at about 3.5 to 1 on these. So let's say you have to use 40 to 45 of them on the rings, and so you're looking at like 10 to 15 exalts, maybe 20 exalts that you're adding in additional cost. But sometimes by doing that, you can add 1 divine or 2 divines of value. And even if you don't do it on each individual ring, you got to think of this sort of like a McDonaldization or assembly line, like a little Fordism, kind of factory mass manufacturing here. We're not crafting one individual ring to try and like mirror craft it, because this is a profit crafting session, right? You'll see once I get started here that it is very sort of rapid fire. Because I've crafted for literally thousands of hours, I'm able to parse items very quickly, and so it takes me about between probably half a second and a second to look at something and know whether or not I should craft it. I'm going to slow down myself here just so I can hopefully it's more communicable for you guys to understand what I'm doing and the line of thinking that I have. But it might come to a case where at a certain point I just kind of get into the zone and move through them. But if that does happen, I will point out which ones are valuable and why, so to help you guys gain an understanding. But there's really no substitute for experience, so don't hesitate to jump into doing this because you will learn with time. Another thing that's important to note as well, sorry that I forgot to mention, all of these breach rings are normal and they're all item level 82. Item level 82 is the max item level, and it is very important to get because without item level 82, you can't get tier 1 mana, nor can you get tier 1 of any of the resistances except for chaos. Sorry, well, you can get all res, but not fire, flat, or cold. And those are all very valuable, particularly mana. Mana is in fact so valuable, I would say, that if you can get it, it's primarily for archmage builds, right? So if you can get it combined with rarity, cast speed, intelligence, or lightning damage prefix, like any of those 2 together, you can probably get a div or 2. If you get 3 of them together, probably 2 to 3 divs. If there are like 3 of them that are high rolled, especially if rarity is involved, 4, 5, 10 divs plus. What's really cool about this, and hopefully that was illustrated well by me kind of going through this, is that you'll be able to see that it's 2 divines, 3 divines, 1 divine, 1 divine, 10 divines, 15, blah blah blah. We're not talking about did I just crash it? 6 divines. We're not talking about like making a perfect item here where you get super lucky and you have like, you know, it's very heavily like, you know, you craft 100 rings that are worth 2 exalts and 1 ring that's worth 200 divs, and that raises the average sale price up like artificially. These are very consistent, and there are so many different ways that they can be valuable that you know, if you are discerning and understand how to spot these valuable combinations or dualities, it really is something that is going to be very difficult to lose out on. So yeah, the item level we covered. I covered why we're using the essences of the infinite. I covered why we're using the catalysts and how that interacts with breach rings, and covered the costs again. So I'll attach this here. You can see for us again, it's 18.4, but a lot of that is just coming from the fact that I overstocked on greater essences, regals, exalts and chaos, just so we wouldn't have to buy them in between. But again, you could scale this to whatever degree. I do recommend if you're going to do any kind of batch craft, maybe at least 20 of them would be good. 20 is probably a good starting sample size. But yeah, we can get started now. So we'll use the again, the Essence of Infinite. And this is always going to hit a suffix. And so what we're looking for here is 11 to 13 attributes, 31 to 33 of either strength, dex, or int. However, we're probably going to craft on at least regal, anything above like a 25, which I believe is tier 3. But we'll go through here and we'll see. So 3 attributes, 8 dexterity, 25 int, 24. Int is by the way, int, oh, there we go, double tier 1 in a row. Int is by far the most valuable of the 3. Oh, another tier 1. Because of the strength of, another tier 1. The strength of ES builds and also with Archmage and stuff like that, it's just very strong. Dex is good too. But yeah, and then you also have like Hawa and attribute stacking and the way it interacts with those. There's a lot of reasons why they can be good, which is not the least of which would just be you know, covering your base requirement for attributes as well. Damn, 2 in a row again. As I said, it's 3 in a row. It's a 1 in 8, right? So that means on average we would hit 15 of them. Oh my god. We'd hit 15 tier 1s since we have 120 of these. Another tier 1. Wow. How many is that so far? We're doing pretty well RNG wise here. Oh, another one. Oh, another one. DJ Khaled. Oh, tier 1. The when you get a 30 roll, again, tier 1 is 31 to 33. The 30 rolls are still very good, and they're definitely ones that we would craft on. What I do not recommend though, for myself at least. Again, you can obviously fiddle with this if you choose to try it out and find you know, where your comfort level is and what you like to craft on and what you don't, and you know, it's going to require some personal agency and consideration for you know, how liquid you want to be and how long you're willing to wait, how much time you want to put into it, blah blah blah. But for myself, my basic rule of thumb is that the greater essence of infinite, so the one that turns a magic item into a rare item with a guaranteed attribute modifier, those are I think they're about 30 exalts right now, so 30 to 1 divine, or sorry, 4 to 1 divine, which is not inexpensive, but the like expected value return on that is very, very high if you do use it on a tier 1. But that's my basic rule, is that on any one of these I am gonna 100% use this, the greater essences. But the ones that are lower, I'm not gonna use it unless it hits 2. So for example, the ones that hit like 30 here, so plus 30, so like plus 30 strength, plus 30 strength. You can separate them ahead of time too if you want, by just doing it like this before you put on the prefixes, and like plus 29. And so you can see you hold Alt, of course, and then plus 28. So that's going to cover your tier 2s, right? So we've got our tier 1s over there in that column on the right, and that's going to cover our tier 2s. And then we can do plus 27, and this is going to cover our tier 3s. Now, one of the cool things too with the attributes is that the as I mentioned, the catalyzing can raise the values quite high, but the actual raw number value, the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 2 max roll is only 3 of the attribute, right? And the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 3 is only 6. So when you catalyze it, especially if you get them together, most people are not going to be min-maxing to the point that they care to actually have triple tier ones or whatever. So having things like this where they look like they're in the same range, especially if there's like I call them like psychological pricing breakpoints, but when people search things on trade, they typically look for whole numbers or by fives, right? So like if they're looking up like dex strength or int, they'll probably look for something like 25 or 30 or 40 or 35. Very rarely do people put like 32 or 31 unless that's a breakpoint for like the minimum of a tier, right? But if the person is like sophisticated enough that they're breaking it down by tiers, they're not going to be the type of person that's going to be quote unquote fooled by a catalyst anyways. So it's sort of a moot point. But there we go. So now we have that separated. So then the next thing we have to do here, how many did we get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're missing 6. We got 18 tier 1s, so we got a little bit luckier than average there. I only have 15 greater essences, so let's grab a couple more of those first. All right. Twitch chat. Okay, they were 30 chaos. All right, fizz damage to attacks, fizz damage to attacks. Flat mana, evasion, flat fizz, evasion, mana, fire, lightning. That's very good. That's tier 2 lightning, not tier 1. Tier 2, that's tier 2 fire. That's mid-range lightning roll, which is okay. Ooh, that's nice. Ooh, that's tier 1 rarity. That's value. That's like a mid. Again, anything above like 20 with a rarity roll is usually one that's pretty good. All right, that's a good mana roll. Tier 2 cold. Tier 1 life. Mid-range mana. Oh, I think that's tier 2 flat lightning. Yep, there's tier 1 rarity. Tier 1 cold. Tier 1 lightning. Tier 1 rarity. Tier 2 cold, but it's with a nice int roll too. Tier 1 fire. And what's really great about this, guys, too, and this is maybe something that you guys haven't put into practice yet, in particular if you're somewhat novice to crafting. Sometimes people are hesitant to actually use the intrinsic, application or intrinsic value that currency items apply, right? Like people use them as like a token for barter or as a store of value, but are often hesitant to use them for their crafting purpose. But just think about this logically, right? A regal, you can get like 6 or 7 regals for 1 exalted orb, and you can get 125 to 130 exalts currently. Ooh, that's very value. Okay, sorry, time out from what I was saying. This roll by itself, we're gonna catalyze the mana now. As a magic item, I could probably sell this for 2 divs. Okay, magic. We'll look this up quickly. We got mana. Check all of these. Oh, I forgot to put the count in, sorry. All right, so this guy just posted 1 minute ago, but after that it goes up to 4 divs, 5 divs, 5 divs, 7 divs. We can even lower the value a little bit. Let's put 250. 1 div, 1 div, 1 div. I can almost guarantee you this is somebody watching my stream. How many people are okay? So just so people on YouTube are aware, there's 400 people watching me do this live right now as I'm recording. So do keep in mind that's quite a few people, and so there's a decent chance that some of the material supplies on this might go up, the sale prices might go down. This person is absolutely has no idea what they're doing, but that's okay. Nonetheless, do be conscientious of this, and if it does surge in price right away, people tend to be quite fickle, and people tend to be very sort of, not short-sighted, but their memories tend to lapse quite easily in PoE. All right, now we're up to 450 people, so do be discerning. The people that are most prone to surging a market, in spite of the data that's given to them, for example, the fact that I pointed out that greater essences were 30 chaos, and I just looked and they're now like 60, and I haven't even finished crafting these yet. The people that are willing to jump on something to that extent without testing it out first or doing any of the math or even letting me finish that, they're very likely the same kind of people that are going to jump from video to video or content creator looking for that immediate return. That's not a judgment or anything. It just tends to be the reality of the situation. So even if the conditions that I'm talking about don't appear right away as you view this, check back in a couple days, a week, whatever. I can almost assure you it'll be back to normal. And again, this is actually a really strong strategy regardless, because there are so many different permutations. As I pointed out with that list that we looked at initially, there's 25 different modifiers here, and there's tons of different variables that hold value. So don't be discouraged by that. But in any case, the person that just listed those a minute ago, he's still, aside from this one guy, you can see that it's still, even when I drop the values, you're looking at 4 or 5 divs each. So this might even be a 2 or 3 div one. All right, maybe we'll put it at, well, actually, I'll put it at 2. Anyways, we can continue. But the point there just being that back-to-back tier 1 manas, baby. Back-to-back. As I said, boys, those augment orbs. Woo! Spicy. All right. So 270. That's got attributes. Untick that. Just put on attributes. I won't even put a... And there is not a single one available. Let's drop that. There we go. 1 div, 2 divs. Jeez. Put this at 1. With the mana, actually I'll talk about this when we get to like the regaling and the greater essencing phase. We'll get through the augments first. But again, as I said throughout here, the flat mana is a very valuable prefix. And what's interesting about the flat mana too is that there is actually an essence. You can obviously use a mana essence to try and target it more closely. But as I pointed out when we first started, there are I think it's tier 1 fire. That's tier 1 fire flat. There are 4 suffixes. Oh, my dog! Shit, I forgot to let my dog in. 1 sec. After we finish this, T1 chaos there. Oh, she's probably inside, a little cold. Oh, good fire one. I forgot one more augment. Sorry, 1 second. Let my dog in. Whoop! Sorry. Hey, how are you? Oh. You want to see the craft? Oh, yeah. Oh, crafting. Ooh! Yeah. Oh, don't be mad at Belton for this video being so long. YouTube comment section. Yes. Okay, good girl. You heard it here, boys. All right. What was I saying? Shoot. Can't remember. Anyways, we'll continue. Now, we've got ourselves a good basis here. The 31s. So, again, I don't know why I pulled those ones aside, but those were the higher value targets. But with the ones that hit a tier 1 attribute, again, my policy has always been to make sure that I use the greater essences on those guys. 33. Here's all 18. So we'll start off with that because those tend to be the highest value. There we go, 24 dex. 27 int. Ooh, 29. Oh! Ho ho! With the tier 1 rarity. Woo! Boom! Boom! Double tier 1 with mana. That's good. Int and attributes, very good. Okay, I'm just gonna buy this for the sake of demonstrability. Oh, they fell back down in price a little bit. Okay, they're back down to 41. That's manageable. But again, you'd be discerning. I'm just gonna buy more of them because I need them for the purposes of this video. Boom, double tier 1. Paid off right away. Woo! That's not, again, 30 is tier 2, but again, the optics of it are quite easy to manage, like when you catalyze it. So now what we're gonna do, and sorry, this is another core part of this. So couple things. Number one, you can sell, especially mostly with just, well, you can do it with rarity too, but mostly if you get like tier 1 or tier 2 mana as on a magic item, you can sell those usually for a div or two. When I first started doing this, I could literally, because again, it wasn't really that popular at the time, if I got tier 1 mana and catalyzed it, it would instantly sell for a div. Tier 1 mana plus cast speed or int would sell for 2 to 3 divs. I think the most I sold the magic ring for was like for 4 maybe. But the reason for that is that if you use a greater essence that gives a caster modifier or a speed modifier, it'll guarantee cast speed, since the cast speed is the only affix that has that tag. And then when you get like a perfect mana ring like that would be lightning damage, tier 1 mana, rarity, cast speed, intelligence, and maybe double rarity. I'm not sure actually for that 6 mod, but anything in that vein would be pretty crazy. But yeah, so we covered why the catalyst can give a ton of value, especially when you're like double or triple dipping the value of the implicit over multiple mods. But one of the things too that I do that maybe other people don't, which I think is a massive amount of value being left on the table, is I aggressively use exalts and I aggressively use chaos orbs. So once you determine, like, because there are 450 people watching now on Twitch, I'll try to be, I'll give some indications, but not give exact high value ones, because I don't want to like surge one market or make it seem like that's overly important. You have the list of the mods here, right? If you just explore these and check out different value combos on those, I'll link the Craft of Exile as well. Just check out the tier 1s for different mod combos and you'll be able to spot very easily and very quickly. Like when I just pulled up mana and int, and we saw mana and int on a magic ring was at least a divine or two, right? That's obviously a high value combination together. Now, once you get to a rare version of the ring, that can be diminished somewhat with mana because it doesn't allow them to use the cast speed. However, it doesn't diminish whatsoever with things like resistances or attributes or flat physical modifiers. And because exalts have been rapidly devaluing or debasing versus the value of a divine orb, right? And then you look at something like regals, which are 6. That means one divine is going to get you 725 regals. And an exalt, chaos have gone up a bit. Chaos orbs were 2x when I was doing it, but that's probably just to adjust for the spike in the divine ratio. I believe the chaos were 44 to 1 for divines. Okay, yeah, so it's the same. So you get 45 chaos orbs for 1 div, right? Now you got to keep in mind, if you hit like a tier 1 mod, right? Like say tier 1 dex or tier 1 int, right? And then you regal and you exalt or whatever, and you don't hit a second modifier. If you use chaos orbs while you retain that core, that anchoring mod, right? Especially if you have 2 of them, even if they're non-congruent, like let's say you have a tier 1 flat attack modifier on your prefix, and then like tier 1 cast speed, right? Those are both good mods, but they're obviously, they don't synergize well. But using a chaos orb there is really, really high value because you have a chance to change, not only can you like change it for just one like valuable mod, but there's like 2 possible ones that you can swap it to. And again, when you have a 45 to 1 ratio, as I just pointed out, a magic item is like 3 to 4 divines with 2 correct mods together. So, you know, when we went through that list of the ones that I sold, right? We go through here, and I can even just keep going on the thing. Find next. Boo. Right? 1 div, 2 div, 10 div, 15 div, 1 1 1 3 3 3 3 3 3 two, 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 two. Like that was definitely, those were all definitely magic rings. That one that was just like right here, where it's two, 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 right? 9999. If you guys do actually want to see what the specific rings were, I do have all of my VODs available on my Twitch. For people watching on YouTube, I'll also link the VODs down there. But again, you can see most of these are in the 1, 2, 3, 4 divine range. And a lot of those are rings that are rare, that I just heavily aggressively exalted and heavily aggressively chaos orbed until there were no anchoring mods. Like, anchoring mod is not an official term. It is what I refer to as the primary store of value on an item. So, you know, like for example, if we have tier 1 mana flat on a ring, in most cases, that's going to be the most valuable mod. If we have like tier 1 rarity, you know, that's one of the most valuable mods. If we have, you know, it depends ring to ring, right? But I usually will use a chaos orb until there are 0 high value mods on that item anymore, because the opportunity cost of doing so is that at most, you know, you're gonna risk on average, if there's 6 mods on a ring and it's a 1, that means it's a 1 in 6 to remove the mod that you want, right? But that means 5 out of 6 times you're gonna have an opportunity to hit 1 out of 30 different mods that could make that ring worth like a divine or 2, and a divine or 2 is worth 45 chaos. Also, when you think about the fact that the bases, I paid 5 chaos or 5 exalts per base, right? But the other day when I was doing it, I was actually paying upwards of 10 exalts per base, and 10 exalts was actually when divines were only, you know, I think they were about 90 or 80, I don't know, maybe even 70. I would like the worst that I got was I was paying 1 divine for every 10 rings. And again, I'd like to point out, my total cost was 16 plus 6, 22, 41 divs. And from those 41 divs, I made approximately 600 divs, 2 mirrors. You can see that those sales have still been coming in throughout the thing, and they're not that heavily spiked either. And so using exalted orbs, if you regal something and it ends up being crappy, right? So like this one, where's it about? Okay, let's find a low value on both ends. Here we go. 2 attributes and 10 life. Both are terrible, right? You have 2 options here. Either you can vendor the like 3 magic rings or not vendor, use the reforging bench and it'll give you 1 unidentified one, right? But if you're paying 5 exalts, or in my case the other day, 10 exalts per ring base, that means that you're turning 30 exalts or 15 exalts into a ring that's already magic, which means you can't use the basic essence on it, and so you're kind of losing the sort of core value of it to begin with. Alternatively, since it's regaled, it means you've already got 3 open modifiers on it, right? You might as well exalt it 3 times, because the ring itself is worth 5 exalts, and if you're willing to throw away 5 exalts 3 times over to get 1 ring, so you'd be losing net 10x, but you also have the fact that you can't use the essence, so it's probably more like 12.5x. The possibility of exalting 3 times and hitting something like a tier 1 mana or a rarity, or, you know, even double exalting like tier 1 mods that aren't even on there and making a whole new brand new item that you can then chaos, right? It very much would be to your benefit, in my opinion, to exalt them out to see that. It also prevents you from having to constantly get bases, which is one of the biggest bottlenecks time-wise. The other materials you can just get from Alva like instantly, but getting the rings, there are a lot of people that are farming Breach, so it's not too difficult, but you know, it's obviously substantially more so than just buying whatever it is on there. So with that being said, we'll go through and we're just going to exalt all of these to begin with, especially these ones here that are, these are all the tier 1 ones, right? So these are our highest value. But we're going to continue this practice throughout, even on the ones that are lower value. So there we go. That's a nice rarity roll. Boom. Look at that. So by exalting there, we just got the tier 1 mana roll. Okay? So that means that, here, let's do the last one. When you're right, you're right. Why don't we look that up? Now we're going to catalyze it. Okay, so we've got 40 strength, 45 int, 10 cast speed, 180 mana. The cast speed, like the double attribute. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. One. Nothing with cast speed. Okay, we'll get rid of cast. Oh, sorry, it's because I have it as magic. Sorry. Nothing. Okay, get rid of cast speed. Really? No, that's one. Okay. Oh, that's because it says 4. Derp. The cheapest ones: 5 div, 7 div, 2 div on that one. And when we try dropping that, see again, as I mentioned, people tend to look in round numbers, right? So this one was 45, but we can maybe drop that to 40, right? So you can see here, 2 divs, 2 divs, 3 divs, or, right, so right there, and this is, again, this is actually a pretty good example of this. When we're talking about the different stores of value, right? Now, people might want to get mana and then strength and int if they're playing, like, you know, like Hawa, or, you know, strength might be an attribute requirement and they could still be playing Archmage, or, you know, maybe just generalized attribute requirements. Mana's pretty strong, but mana, int, and cast speed is definitely a bit more of a congruent 3-mod combo. And if you look here, there's only one of those, and it's the guy in my guild, Hirako. So I know Hirako is doing this because I'm doing this. And it was also posted 11 minutes ago. So, Hirako. Sneaky goose. And I also had my trades unlisted, so that was not cool. What's up? I want to mirror that quiver. Look at this, chat. I sacrificed 150. Oh, I still get my 150 divs. Belton, you don't know how to make currency. Yeah, I made 300 divs while I was explaining how to do something. Check yourself. All right, so that's almost that's like 3/4 of a mirror. Whilst in the middle of a video guide. What are we at here? 51 minutes? Oh, the YouTube comment section is going to love this. Belton. I want in-depth crafting guides, but they have to be between 5 minutes. Also, 5 exalts is too high of a starting cost? When are you going to make a guide for us normies? I only have 6 transmutes, and I've got some copper pipe from the YMCA. All right, confirm 150D feed before I use, please. Roger. Money, 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 money. I do understand why some people find me insufferable. All right, cool. So sorry, a little detour there. Did we miss anything else? 60 divs? Fuck. 50 div offer? Fuck. I wanted to buy this. Oh wait, do I have 2 of them at 60 divs? Chat. Things I do for you, chat. What else did we miss? How long ago was that? What time is it? Oh, I can get that one too, actually. Right, never mind. Well, we got the important thing, which was the mirror service. Maybe I'll put an auto reply. I am recording a YouTube video slash streaming on Twitch at Belton PoE. I'll just to reply to whispers. Whoa, sorry. Quiver mirror fee is 150. Okay. I'll hide my whispers again so I don't get distracted. Alrighty. Where were we? Oh yeah, the ring. Where was that? Where'd it go? There it is. Right. So again, yeah, we're just getting cucked by our guildmates. Fucking guildmates. But yeah, 3 divs on the cast speed side, right? So that's one way to look at that, right? So you can look for even though there's 4 mods there that are pretty useful, you can kind of break it down as like the cast speed, the int, and the mana as a separate search versus strength, int, and mana as a separate search. Now, what you can also do on top of this is say, well, okay, if mana is the highest value mod there, and we didn't get a ton of value, right? Like when we went to go, now this is a relative term. I know for a lot of you, 2 or 3 divs on something like these simple to make is probably actually quite a high value, but you know, we're looking at 1 div, 2 div, 2 divs. And again, that's my fucking guildmate. Fucking guys. All right. But mana, as I said, is the highest value target. So why don't we adjust this now, right? So why don't we go 25 strength, and as if we were going to change the catalyst, right? So we'll go 25 strength, 30 int, and then we'll go 270 mana. And you can see, all right, well, that's similar, right? So we're looking at 1 to 2. 1 to 2 divs still, but why don't we check out now int, and then we'll throw in the cast speed. Ooh, there we go. See, now we're talking 2 to 3 divs. These cast speed mods, though, are probably important to check out because we have the lowest roll, right? So what are we looking at? 2 divs, 3 divs. So that's actually probably the best permutation of that ring there. Now, what you could also do here too, right? Because the life, for the most part, and the fizz are kind of, the flat fizz are kind of dead mods here. Actually, that's not entirely true. I suppose that you could be doing something like Kawa based, but you could also try and chaos this. But I don't think that in this situation it would be that worthwhile because, as I pointed out, you can get somewhere between 1 to 3 divines depending on how you catalyze this, right? And if you look at it and say, okay, well, the stores of value here are all 4 of the bottom mods, that means that you'd have a 1 in 3 chance to potentially have like a, you know, you have to look at the total list of modifiers and see which ones would add value, but it's probably only about a 1 in 10 chance to hit something semi-useful, but at the same time, it's a 2 out of 3 chance to remove something that would be a very high store of value. So in this case, it wouldn't be worth it. But I do think, and again, you should look into this before. So for myself, I did catalyze it without looking, primarily to just to kind of like illustrate the higher value of things there. But I do think that this one will probably sell a little bit quicker. So we'll put that one up here first, and we'll go with 2 div on that. All right, and let's move along now. Strength, int, anything good there? But this one here is one that I think would be worthwhile of chaosing right away. So okay, so here, sorry, I'll tell you about the store's value. So we still have tier 1 strength, right? And we've got tier 2 life, which is like, I would say, a secondary value mod. Now that is tier 2 rarity. That's not the tier 1 rarity, but tier 2 rarity I would still consider a high value modifier. There we go. Look at that. Tier 1 lightning res. So now we've got rarity that gives value, strength that gives value, and we've got a pretty good life roll, and the lightning res. So now when I was talking about using the chaos orbs, how there's different permutations that can give out, right? If we hit a second tier 1 attribute, money, right? If we hit a second tier 1 resistance, boom, money. If we hit a second rarity modifier, boom, money. So you see how all of a sudden something that was, there we go, we hit a second rarity. Unfortunately, it's a very low tier rarity, but a second rarity nonetheless. And look at that. That's tier 1 lightning damage. So why don't we look that up now? So we go look up strength. That's tier 1, right? We're going to go look up lightning damage. It would have been better if it were int, but that's okay. Then we're going to go look at rarity, and we'll look up 30. All right, there we go. 1 div, 2 div. And what else do we have on there? Mana gained on kill, which is also semi-useful, but because that's a pretty low roll, I'm not going to bother looking at that. We can also add life into the mix there. Yeah, so the life doesn't look like it's adding too much value there. But the lightning, the rarity, and the strength. Now, if we had rolled a higher tier rarity, you're looking at 9 divs, 9 divs, 9 divs, right? We just got kind of, I don't want to say we got unlucky because luck has very little to do with it, but, you know, we got the bottom tier rarity on that second roll. second roll there. So this is one where you kind of make a decision. All right, well, the life isn't really adding value. The mana gain on kill is decent. The double rarity is not going to make too big of a difference, especially because the combined value of those two rarities. A perfect tier 1 rarity on the prefix can go to 32. And so the rarity that's on our suffix right here is making it probably look like optically, it kind of just looks like it's the single tier 1 mod. So this is one that, you know, I might just leave, like, let's say there are ones that we know for sure we're just going to keep, and then we could put ones maybe in a second column here, where we'll price them just at like an entry sale fee or sale price like that. And it's like, while we're crafting, if somebody, because, you know, when we're going through them like this, obviously I would do this substantially faster if we're just myself on my own, but while we go through them like this, naturally it's going to take a little bit of time. So just having things listed while we're doing that to check out, you know, if I can get a guaranteed sale of 1 div versus make the risk and potentially get 2, it's like I'll take the guaranteed sale kind of thing, you know. And then we can revisit them at the end and then decide if there's any more that we want to kind of get into a bit further. All right, so this is a very good one. Ooh. All right, I just want to point this out. All right, let's look at this, just these 4 mods. Minimum, I had to lower the values. All right, let's put these back to R8. So these, yeah, so you see how these are R8? Sorry, R8 is tier 1. Oh, if you play PoE, what you would colloquially refer to as tier 1. See, this one's good. This is one I would actually tier. Where'd it go? But that ring that I just showed you there, we only have 4 mods on this, right? And it's already worth quite a bit. Now, this is one where I would actually consider, again, we're going to revisit this. This is one where I would consider the potential upside of using a Chaos Orb on it. Because even though it does have that double tier 1 on there, right, plus like a decent mana roll, and the rarity, which is always nice, it's like, if you hit a 3rd tier 1, this ends up being 50 divs. If you hit, you know, like lightning damage or a 2nd rarity, you're talking about something that would increase its value by like orders of magnitude. Whereas, you know, we could comfortably maybe sell this, like I would put this at maybe like 2 divs or something and just kind of test the luck. But that's one that I'll consider revisiting. Again, there's no necessity to make those decisions right away, but you do want to factor it in. By the way, when I'm doing these myself, I don't price check them like this. I tend to have a this is one I'm definitely getting chaos. Sorry, let me finish my thought though first. I tend to have kind of like a memory bank. Just again, this comes sort of through experience, but you know which ones are kind of worth certain things. Like I know that if I have a tier 1 mana and like an inch roll kind of thing, I'll put it, if you look in my breach ring tab here, I got like the 1 div, 2 div ones, and then I've got these ones that don't have that price, right? So the ones that are in here are ones that I've probably price checked, and these are ones that I just think the 1 div one might even just be throwaway mods. The 2 div one is probably, so like this one here, right? That's a tier 1 lightning, tier 1 strength, mana, and like a mid-range lightning, right? This one's tier 2 rarity with mana and a tier 1 res. So it's got like good mods on it. Oh, this one's actually pretty nice. Like the triple attributes, you know what I mean? So it's ones where it's like, it's not super high. But again, when you're thinking about currency generation, in the same way that you do with mapping, I mean, crafting, everything should be put into a frame, like a rate, right? The only exhaustible currency in PoE is time. And so if you spend an extra hour price checking things and the marginal benefit of that hour is like you make an extra 10 divs of discovery on min-maxing the value of each independent ring, whereas you could have just spent that hour crafting 100 new rings that might have given you 20 divs or 30 divs. do factor that in. But you also don't want to oversaturate the market on things too much, especially after this video comes out. Again, these are all things that you got to kind of factor into it. All right. That's going to be worth a lot. Only the attributes are tier 1 right now here, right? That's actually tier 3 and tier 2 int. So it's tier 2 int and it's tier 3 dex and tier 1 attributes. But because, remember I said that the values are so close together on them, that when I put this, once I put the catalyst on this, damn, it's too bad we couldn't get one higher on the dex. For the reason I mentioned earlier, actually you could if it were 27 rolled. But let's look, 16 attributes, and then we'll go 35 dex and 45 int. Just those three. 45, and then drop that down to the closest 5. And attributes, 15 instead of 16. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad, chat. And so, you know, when I went through the sale price thing, again, what I'm pointing out right now probably seems, I don't have my chat open on Twitch, and I'm sure some of you are probably going, no way it'll actually sell for that. Don't underestimate. I just dropped, look at that. I dropped this by 5, and I dropped that by 5. And I dropped that by 3. So I dropped the actual attribute value on ours is 45, 39. So we're missing 4, 9, and then we just took 3 off. That's another 9, 18. We took 18 attributes off, and still the cheapest one is 10 divs, and there's only one of them, and then it jumps to 30. And we only have those 3 mods. Let's see what we get on the prefixes. Mana! Mana's not going to add a ton, but let's put that at 12 divs or something. Nice. This is one I might look up first, just to take a look to see. So we'd go 45, 45, and 25 rarity. Again, when you're starting out doing this, it might be valuable. Oh, like, yeah, so by itself like that, it's already 2 divs. So I'll probably sell that actually as is. I gotta catalyze it, but where'd it go? Just those 3 mods together. But you see what I'm saying now? Again, this is, I guess, supposed somewhat rhetorical because I can't see chat. But hopefully the point that I'm kind of trying to bring across here is sort of illuminating itself in that, you know, you don't have to have like 6 perfect mods necessarily. If you know what the stores of value are, and when I say stores of value, I mean, you know, oh, I'm sorry, we want the catalyst one. Or sorry, the big one. If you know what the stores of value are, being like the mods that give the highest value, and the ones that when they combine together, kind of like, it's like, let's say one mod is worth 1 div, right? And that other mod by itself is worth 1 div. You get the 2 of them together, they become like a force multiplier, and it's like 10 divs together, right? Being able to spot those combinations and to know where they exist, and to be able to like either chaos for them, to regal for them, whatever, and just to be able to kind of parse through that relatively quickly. It's such a huge asset, man, and I can't stress enough how quickly these sell, and how valuable this has been for me over time. Actually, let's go through these rares first. Well, we already did that one, so. Oh, look at that. Tier 1 cast speed, rarity, mana regen. So this is one that's definitely worth. So remember when we first started, when I was talking about the value you get, so cast speed's got value here and rarity's got value here. We maintain both. Okay, cast speed and rarity still there. Still there. And there's a nice mana roll. So what happens with just, so if we were to catalyze that mana, we go 120, 65, 190 and 22 cast speed. Let's look at that. These ones actually might not have a ton of value because a lot of people catalyze for the cast speed, which I actually think is stupid because of how expensive it is, unless it's like perfect magic ring. That's a little bit more of an advanced crafting thing here. 180, or so, what did I say it was? Apologies. 25. And, yeah, at least a div. Look at that, 1 div. Right, so we used what, like 6 Chaos Orbs, and we changed that into a 1 Divine Ring? Why not? Alright, what else we got here? So on this one, the primary store of value here is the Dexterity. Strength, Mana, Roll Strength, Fizz, Cast Speed, Life, T1 Lightning. T1 Lightning, Dex and Strength. Let's check that out. Bottom roll for T1 Lightning. So it would be 1 to 48, which is 49 divided by 2, 24.5, 25. And then we've got again, for yourselves when you're getting started out, if you do decide to do this, so we're looking at R9, we're looking at least a div there. And what if we catalyze the strength X? So that would go to 45 and 20. 2 divs, 2 to 3 divs. Solid. So 2 to 3 divs there. We have the flat fizz. The life might add a little bit. Catalyze that up. Now the cast speed there, obviously, as I mentioned, that doesn't really add any value. It doesn't work out, like it doesn't line up with the damage to attacks. But this is a situation where a Chaos Orb would have a higher chance to remove value than it would to add value, in my opinion. Okay, so we can put that on there, and I'll even put that one for 1 div. Okay, this one, Mana is the store of value, or sorry, Mana, the like intelligence. Okay, we've got Mana, Dex, Int, and Mana Regen and Rarity. Okay, let's assume we catalyze attributes. That'd be 45 Int, 20 Dex, 26 Rarity. So we'll do 25 Rarity. 80 Mana, 25 Rarity, 45 Int, and Dex. 1 div, 2 div, 2 div. Mana Regen, add anything to the mix. Where's Mana Regen? Mana Regen. Change that to an end. 2 divs, 15 divs. Why don't we drop these values a little bit? Just see if that still is the case. 2 divs, 10 divs. We're looking good. We're looking good. I'm gonna put this at where'd it go? It is. I'm gonna put that up at 2. And again, when you're starting out with doing this, you can take your time with it. I know I just said a few minutes ago that you want to think about your currency as a rate per hour. However, you also have to think in the long run too. I find a lot of people are too prone, especially when not to paint with a broad brush, but the type of people that usually watch these videos are often people that think in the short term, right? Investing in your understanding of this game, your knowledge of crafting, of trading mechanics and stuff like that, nothing will pay a higher dividend in the long run. So while it might be tempting to kind of burst through these, craft as many as you can, if you're doing that with a hampered or a handicap level of knowledge, then over time, probably within a day or two, you're going to be suffering a net loss. So when you're first getting started, and again, the reason I'm doing this primarily is for more of a teaching tool, I would highly suggest going through this so you can spot the combinations, see where value lies, and get a rough idea of what certain mods are worth, because that'll help inform sort of subconsciously your decision making going forward. All right, so this one here, we've got The T1 strength is the highest value. The dex is nice too. That's tier 2, right? The rest of the rolls on here are pretty average. It is tier 2 fire damage, but I don't think there's really many fire damage builds. Ooh, and we hit tier 2 int. Man, if that tier 2 int had replaced the dex, because we had the dex there, right? If that had replaced that instead, value. So we lost the tier 2, but we've still got the primary store value, which is the tier 1 strength. Okay, so we lost it. So this is one there where, I mean, 9 tall attributes is not terrible. Neither is tier 2 life. But this is one where we would have, in my mind, we would have primarily lost. Like, there's not a big driver of a store of value on there. So obviously not every chaos time is going to work out. But that's one that I would stop rolling on. On this one here, we've got tier 1 dex and not really anything else of value. So that's the store. And there, well, we just hit the T1 dex, so move on. This one has got the store value. Here's the T1 strength. Gone. T1 int. And the, ooh. Int dex lightning damage. I might actually look that up. So 45, 15, 26. 25, 45, 15. Oh yeah, flat fizz. Drop these down a little bit. The this one I would imagine would be primarily for like Hawa or yeah, I might what's the upside here? Okay, let's think about this. It's got lightning damage. It's got lightning damage and int together are very, very strong because int can scale lightning flat using Hawa. That res roll is also decent. The lightning resistance and the lightning damage synergize because you could lightning catalyze it. So that means that if we hit something like all res, which is tagged with fire, lightning, and cold, that would be a triple dipping on the lightning catalyst. We could also we could replace the lightning resistance with a third attribute suffix. We could replace the dex with a second tier 1 suffix. If we got a high roll mana, that would be worth a shit ton. And what was our... So this is one actually, you know what? This is one of the ones where it's like, if we hit mana on here or rarity, it would be worth substantially more. But because I'm somewhat suspect of a market that has so few, especially when I adjust the values, and this is a huge gap, right? You go 3 divs and 4 divs, and they're both... See, this one has mana. These two are both corrupted. This one is double rarity, though. So, yeah. This is one that I'm going to put... Remember the one I was saying we'll revisit later on? I'll put that one there for now. Yeah. I might even put that to 2 divs because I actually don't want to catalyze that one because if we do roll it, right, we might end up switching. If we hit mana, we might mana catalyze it if it got rid of like evasion, right? If we hit all res, we would probably catalyze lightning. Yeah, so we'll hold off on catalyzing that one. So this one has the double tier 1 attributes, and none of the other mods have value, so I'm actually going to YOLO that. That's too bad. We got rid of one of them, but we did hit double resistance. And that one lost itself. Okay, here we've got tier 1 rarity with tier 1. So this one, if that mana roll were a little bit higher, not a little bit higher, but higher, like above 100, this would be worth definitely a ton. But even as it sits, let's see, we can get 29 would go to 43, and strength would go to 46. And then we'll just check this out with, let's say, check out again to the nearest 5. So we'll go 45 on the strength, and 29 would go 14, 43, so 40, and rarity 30. And we'll ignore the mana roll for now just to see what that's worth. 1 divs, 2 divs, 5 divs. Any roll of mana on here is worth what? 5 divs, 6 divs. There. What were the other mods? Mana roll so low. Again, this is one that I'm going to throw into that column of we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to catalyze this one for sure. And if I could get like 2 divs for this without having to take the risk, I would. But there's 3 mods on here that are worth a ton. Well, sorry, specifically the tier 1 strength, but int as a modifier is more valuable than strength, but the int is not tier 1, so I would say they're kind of even in that respect. But the rarity there being tier 1, and not only being tier 1, but being above 30, right? Because the range is 28 to 32. As I said, people tend to look in whole numbers. So having it higher within that range where it cracks that can actually be somewhat substantial. All right. This one is just the dexterity for value. On. I'm going to do these a little bit quicker here. We've got tier 1 life, strength, dex. On. Rarity and strength. Ooh. Tier 1 mana. Tier 1 mana. Alright. So, ooh. If that int were tier 1, that would be so much better. But let's look this up anyways. So that would be 200 and 190 plus 90. So that'd be 280 and 280, 30, and then the rarity. I'm not even going to include the int because I think that'll skew the price too much. Two divs, 5 divs. That one with the 2 divs there, it's a bit nice. Ugh. YOLO. So fucking troll, man. So fucking troll. Alright, do we, let's see, what if we catalyze that? It looks nice though. Honestly, never discount the cost of optics. Yeah, I mean, it would add so... If we catalyze the suffixes, we go to 46, 10, and 9. But I just can't imagine anyone looking up. Can't imagine anyone looking up 10 as a bottom value. All right, what do we have here? That's that should be pretty good. That's tier 1 cold flat, and we've got tier 1 strength. It's tier 3 int, but it's a max rolled one, and then mid-range rarity. Mid-range rarity no more, baby. Tier 1 rarity, baby. Let's go. Alright, tier 1 rarity, tier 1 cold, tier 1 strength, tier 1 int. I can fucks with that. Alright, again, this is one of those ones which kind of suffers from a bit of mod confusion. That there's kind of a lot of things happening at once there, but I'm almost certain that we'll be able to draw value out of this, even from just the double attributes and the rarity by themselves. I think 40 int, 40. One, 2, and 5 divs, and that's not even counting the flat cold. At a minimum for tier 1, 16 to 25 is 41, so 22. 21, sorry. Nothing there. What if we get rid of rarity? Look at that. Tier 1 cold plus just the attributes, 3, 4, 5 divs, not including the rarity. Rarity is a huge value mod, so let's see if we can get it with dropping just 1 mod. 8 divs. Add int into the mix. Value. Alright, cool. Let's go, where'd it go? Gives on that. This again, this is not, like, I would never, for me, I would just like this looks incomplete, right? But we're not necessarily trying to make the, how do I phrase this properly? we're trying to make the best items possible, but no, sorry. We're not really trying to make the best items possible. We're trying to make the most profitable items possible, right? And even though for myself, this kind of looks like it's very like incomplete looking, you know, you can, there's people that will buy, especially with the amount of people that are playing now, people that will buy these things just because like they need, you know, they're overly focused, not overly focused, but they're focused specifically on like 4 mods, whatever else is there's kind of superfluous. And so even though like my like kind of, like it's very tempting for me to try hit this, it's like, I know that it's a better move there. All right, here we've got the strength, which is the primary store. Now we've got T1 cast speed. Now we've got double res. Now we've got T1 attributes. Damn, this ring's changing every 2 seconds. Nope. All right. Now I'm going to power through these pretty quickly here, guys. And I'm only going to point out ones that I think are like kind of hyper valuable. Because I'm unable to see my chat currently, but I suspect this video is approaching somewhere around an hour and a half, if not more now. Nice 2-1 in. Here, I'm just looking for a suffix, for an attribute suffix that's at least above 20. Because if it's above 20, that means with a catalyst, it'll show up as 30. Because the trade website doesn't distinguish, like when you look up, let's say you wanted to get like minimum 30 int or 31 int because you wanted to get make sure it was like tier 1. Right now the website, oops, I didn't mean to wriggle that one. Right now, ooh, tier 1 rarity, nice. Right now the website doesn't normalize things based on quality with respect to attributes. And so if you, the ones that have at least 20, to the undiscerning eye, would look like, not look like that. It's not a matter of tricking them, it's just a matter of like market visibility, right? Obviously the mods are still clearly labeled, but the more eyeballs that are on something, the more likely they are to sell. And sometimes an item might be better for somebody, but because of their search parameters, they're just not getting the right amount of eyeballs on it. So by having minimum roll of 20, again, you increase the, as I said, people like to look in round whole numbers, and they tend to like to do break their search terms apart by, yeah, whole numbers or by the minimum item level required for a certain tier. Yeah. Now the fun part. Like, look at that right there. We get the all res, the lightning, brings a whole new life into the item. And again, exalts are so cheap. Look at that. Fucking tier 1 cold, tier 1 attributes. Now that strength's all buffed up. Sweet. And exalts are so cheap relative to the cost. Like, there we go. Look at that. Rarity and now double attributes. Like the likelihood that by using the exalts on these like sort of superfluous rings, that you will have a ring that is worth at least 1 divine. There we go. Look at that. Fucking high roll mana, rarity, and the int on there now. That's at least a div. The likelihood that you're going to get at least... No fucking way. There we go. I'm going to stop it here because that's a perfect motherfucking example. You guys get my point now? God damn, boy. Yes, they all hit 40. Okay, 40 strength, 40 dex, 40 int just by itself. And again, I'd like to remind you that was an additional cost of us of 3 exalts. 8 divs. Not the most valuable ring in the world, but we just got 8 divs for 3 exalts. 8 divs? Just bought us 984 more exalts. That is more, if we were to use 3 exalts on every item in here, 120, 360. That means that if we add 3 divines, less than 3 divines of value from exalting, so we're getting to hit 360 additional modifiers, right? For a total cost of 3 exalts. Double rarity, over 50. Double rarity with 20 dex, let's say. And a life roll, but we won't even put a minimum value. 1 div. Deal with it. This is one that we... I'm gonna chaos this. And we lost the rarity. T1 cold. T1 lightning. T1 life. And dex. Tier 2, but it's a 30 roll. 1 life. Attributes. Int. Tier 1 life, 40 int, 45 dex. Two div, 1 div. Oh, and it's got fucking tier 1 mana. Holy shit, I'm retarded. It's got fucking tier 1 mana gain on kill. Holy shit. I almost fucking overlooked that. Mana. By accident, cold, lightning, of fire. Fire resistance. A single one, eh? Yeah, just the man on kill there. I think that's actually money. And nothing really to compare it to that tightly, but I mean the tier 1 life, the dex in the end, that's definitely value. Definitely value. This is great for Hawa too, because it's got dex and the int are both Hawa related. Man on kills needed by basically every build. The fizz damage would work. And tier 1 life is obviously great for it. Although granted an int stacking build would obviously spaced, but alright. Mana double attributes, T1 life. Oh! Oh! Yes! Oh! Oh! T1 chaos! T1 mana! Rarity! Oh, I love crafting, man. Shit like this I just really like because it's like part of it for me too is it's a more like so often I'm making targeted mirror crafts where it's like you know exactly what you want at each stage and like you've set out such a clear agenda to get to that point that it's just like I'm just gonna price things arbitrarily. Well, not arbitrarily, but I think they're worth now, unless it's something that so good I think it demands price checking. Is that T1 cold? No, tier 2. But yeah, doing something like this where it's like Like, you know, once you get a baseline understanding of what, ooh, is that T1? Oh, T1 flat fizz, and T1, oh, and T1 rarity. Okay, so if we hit a tier 1 prefix here, it's triple tier 1. No way! No way! No way! No way! Guys, I was gonna mirror craft this earlier. That exact dude. I definitely want to get rid of that one. No way, man. See, look at this. We got the fizz fire cold. And then I got the T1 fizz there. Where's the other one? I swear to God, I was looking this up the other day. Here, tier 1 cold and lightning, tier 1 mana. Fizz cold. Oh, that's so funny, dude. Because I was thinking about how could you maximize value. Because I was like, if you get ingenuity, right, and you get double fizz, so we can double catalyze this. So we can catalyze this so that we get double value from the attack-based mods, right? So let's just show what that would look like. Reaver Catalyst. I like it tells me the buyout price is 7.3, and the buyout price is not 7.3. Bitches. Look how much flat damage that is. All right. Okay, now let's just do like a little thought experiment here. Okay, so this is 24 to 39. And it is 6 to 106. Now you get a 97% ingenuity. That's 47. 2. Then you get 39 times 77. Then you're gonna get 7. Then 9. It rounds up now. That's why I was balking for a second there. All right. So you've got 47 plus kids. That's 59 plus 77 plus 209. All right. And then you get Calandra Touch. Now you double it. Now you get the average damage. It's 345 average damage. Or just take the fizz. 47 times 2, 94 to 154 flat fizz. And then just so incredibly good, man. Like playing Magic Find Lightning Arrow, for example, right? Wow. What a fucking great outcome, man. What a great outcome. Dude. That's sweet. Now, let's see if the market reflects my excitement. Because for me, I honestly was thinking about what my next mirror craft should be, and I was definitely leaning towards rings, which is why I have quite a few of them in that tab there. Lightning. As you could probably tell, I still get excited every time. What a great game. All right, variety of items found. Okay, minimum rolls for the fizz, 22, 34, 17. And then 1 and 48 is 21, 25. Okay, we want R9, R9, R5. So this rarity, this is actually something important too I didn't mention. Make sure you distinguish which ones are prefixes and suffixes. As I mentioned, released at the beginning, that prefixes, suffixes, and the base are almost like 3 separate considerations for a craft. This one right here, right? Even though this is tier 1, that's tier 1 suffix rarity, right? And the fizz is tier 2. So the rarity, the reason why ours is so dope is because it's triple tier 1 prefixes, right? So I can use a dextral annul and a greater annul to wipe the suffixes. We're looking for R9, R9, R5. That's the order it would be. R9, R9, R5. There isn't one. The offline. There's one right here. This is on item level 81, so it can't be max rolled. But I also don't think that this person is fully aware of what he has because it has a bottom roll on it. T1 flat cold damage might be better in that situation versus lightning, or it might even better. Actually, well, it depends if you're trying to go performance based, I suppose. R5, that's a suffix. R3, that's tier. I don't know. R9, R9. R6, the cold damage, no. I actually think these are massively undervalued. Yeah. These are all offline anyways, but R9, R9, R5. There's only been one so far. It was offline. The guy, but he only posted it for one div. Where's that? Suffix version. R9, R5. Sorry, YouTube, I know this is really a lot, but actually maybe I should stop doing Windfall Hoarders. I swear to God I saw this. Never mind. I guess what I was looking at must have been a suffix rarity. There isn't one here. Or maybe it was this one actually, because the R5 I'm looking at there is Wind. Oh, actually, oh no, it was one div. Where'd it go? There. This is the one I was looking at. Yeah, okay. So this was my mistake. That is the R5 there is the suffix. Because Windfall is the suffix. The tier 1 rarity for the prefix is 32. So there legit isn't one. And it makes a substantial difference because of how omens work. Sort of like metamods in PoE 1 if you craft it there. Or you can like wipe them and anyways, I'm super stoked about that. I'll updates to follow in that vein. What did we say this guy was worth again? That was what, 8 divs? 7. Okay, how long's my video right now? Oof, 1 hour and 43 minutes. Yikes. All right, I am definitely gonna get some sassy comments on YouTube. All right, Twitch chat. I know I haven't been ignoring you, but I've been focusing. All right, when I post this video, defend my honor. Defend my honor in YouTube comments from the slander of, incoming slander of being too wordy in my videos. And a rarity int. Nice. Double attributes, int, mana, like, yeah, that's great. I'll stop after these rares that we have here. For people on stream, I'll continue, but for the people on YouTube, I feel like I've kind of illustrated my point. I would highly encourage you to take a look at these. I feel like I've shown enough examples. We even hit one that I was not expecting to hit one that I would actually get stoked about. But let alone off actually, we hit that off of a YOLO, not a YOLO, it's not really YOLOing too much, but off a random double exalt. Like that wasn't, you know, a greater essence or anything, so definitely, look at that. Tier 1 chaos, tier 1 mana, strength, int, oh my god, tier 1, that mana regen too. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, we're gonna have to look that one up. The mana, actually no, the mana is gonna be the higher store value, right? Almost certainly with the mana regen. Well, actually, I'm gonna have to look that up because I want to see what the int here, rarity. Yep, that's value. Value. All right, yeah, we will price these out. There's a couple of these again with people on stream. We'll keep taking a look at them and fix them up, but I definitely don't want this video to get into the 2-hour range. Let's see, summarizing thoughts here. There were a variety of things I did on stream, guys, over the past several days. I know a lot of you have been asking for videos like this on how I make currency. This is not like this, again, don't heavily like only lean into this. Like, as I said, I did make 2 mirrors doing this over a very short amount of time, and it's been very consistent. It is incredibly good. And I do think that there are enough different variables and permutations that can manifest themselves that it is fairly safe even when there's a surge market. The material, I'd be more concerned on the material side of things than I would be on the sales side of things, honestly. Because just there's so many variables between the catalysts and chaosing, and there's just so many different cool mods you can get, and blah blah blah. And the market for rings is so high because you can get so much value from a ring, as I mentioned at the start of the video, because of Calandra's Touch and Ingenuity, both of which are relatively affordable now, given the value that they add. And just the amount of things that you can solve with a ring is just quite tremendous. So hopefully I illustrated the point here with, this is a nice little profit craft. Again, if we get into talking about the, oh wait, shit, my DMs are hidden. Thank you to the person who asked me for individualized crafting advice while watching me record a video. Love that. All right. What was I saying? The shit. ADD. Fuck. Yeah, the rings. Sorry, the rings led to about 2 mirrors. The quiver craft is primarily what people were asking the sourcing of funding on. As I mentioned, it was 2,200 divs. I actually did post another video talking about this, but cover it here quickly. The quiver ongoing mirror projects. So there's a couple of guys who've been helping me with the quiver craft that are part of a team. They're not just like people who are value extracting. Those guys were 300, 400, 500. They were 630 out of the 2,200. So 630, or sorry, 22 minus 630. So I made 1,570 divs of it. And let's see, we can go over, I think at the beginning of the video I showed you guys, I sold one of the, I sold the first quiver. I did 2 mirror services, which I made 100 divs off of. And then I sold the original quiver base once I started the better one for a mirror by itself. I did the same thing with the bow, mirror service for 100 divs. Then I sold the original one, we got a better one. I did 2 mirrors worth of this. I did a bunch of like intra-daily flipping or arbitrage stuff with different currency items, primarily omens. I would stockpile lots of omens because I needed them for crafts. But omens, because they've actually increased in supply dramatically over the past few days, which I suspect is because of people doing the omen dupe craft. Since they only need to ever have one of them, it would explain why the supply has gone up so much. But throughout the process of me crafting these over the weekend, there'd only ever be like, 10 of them listed at any given time. And because the average amount I would need for any given craft is like 30, 40, 50 minimum, right? It would make sense if there's a reasonable price that I would buy them there, because, it's better to have them and not need them than need them and not to have them. But also, and this is almost universal with PoE, the price, especially of material markets, goes up like substantially and like noticeably during peak Asiatic hours, peak NA and EU hours. So like when it's like 6 p.m. to like 11 p.m. in North America, EU kind of time, usually around 3. I'm New York, like New York time, so Eastern Standard Time. Usually around 3 a.m. my time is when like here 3 a.m. in 3 a.m. EST in Korea. EST when it is 3 a.m. Where's 3 a.m.? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. All right. Sometimes things make sense. So yeah, I've never actually looked that up before. So yeah, when Asians get off work, or like, sorry, I shouldn't make. It's not a racial thing. When the Asian continent, oceanic continent, whatever, when they get off work, you'll see the prices on things, especially things that are high in mirror crafting stuff. They will go up in price. Part of this has to do with like there's boom and bust cycles with the intra-daily player numbers. Less people are playing during the like those prime time for them. That's when North Americans and Europeans predominantly make up the majority of the people playing the game. And so there's a lower player number, and that has an impact on it as well. But just call a spade a spade. There's also a much more rampant culture of RMTing and gacha gaming and that sort of stuff, and in those markets as well. And so they tend to be a little less discerning with how they spend. But that being said, when you do find a material market, something like omens, where it's very low liquidity, very high value add, and very it's absolutely necessary to do any high-end crafting, because I spent 90 hours straight streaming and I was up for 20 hours a day, it made sense anytime. So I would check in throughout the day, because if I hit a stage of a craft and I know I needed 20, 30 omens, I knew there weren't ever going to be 20 or 30 at that specific time. So throughout the day, I would buy them as they came up. But obviously I would know what I paid for them, right? If I go look, in that video that got shared with me on Reddit, why I was actually laughing, because I was watching my own video, was that the night before when I went to bed, I bought 10 Sinestral Erasures, I think, for 8 divines each. And when I came back, which was Asian Prime hours, they'd gone up to 20 divs. And because I had a stockpile of all different, I had 4 or 5 different crafts, right? So I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So then I didn't get 20. I think I got 15, 17, and 16 for them, and I used 3 of them or whatever, because I always have like a surplus, whatever. And the next day they fell back down to 8 or 9 or whatever it was. You can make a lot of money doing that. I probably made, I would say, conservatively, 150 to 200 divs doing that as well. So I fucking hate this. Sorry, we might be making another. Actually, sorry, I want to see if this guy wants a mirror service, because if he did, that means that I will have made a mirror while recording this video passively. Because we've done 2 mirror services in this video already, so I made 300 divs. See if we can make a mirror. What time is it? What are we on? I gotta pull in under 2 hours here, otherwise I'm gonna get fucking torched on YouTube. 1:51. All right. Never mind. Twitch chat, we'll find out the end of that story. YouTube, I'll update you in the pinned comment if we ended up making a mirror during the recording of this video. But yes, that was how I made some money too. 1,500 divs, right? So we had, 100 divs in the mirror sales, 200 divs in mirror sales. Then I sold 2 of the originals for a mirror each. So that's 700. So that's 900 divs right there. Then I made 2 mirrors worth of rings. That's 1,500 divs right there. And then I have the omens, 1,700 divs right there. Again, I did craft other things aside from the quiver as well. So I actually probably made significantly more than 1,500. But that alone, I showed you the screenshots from, that alone actually covers the cost for myself. And hopefully actually seeing some of these mirror services coming in, as well as the fact that I've, I finished the mirror craft 16 hours ago, and since then I've made 2, almost 3 mirrors back. So you can get some understanding that despite what your personal experiences might tell you, and what your senses might kind of spidey sense tingling, in the least, I'm not saying this to diminish anyone, but the Dunning-Kruger effect is quite present in PoE, right? When you understand something enough to have like a baseline understanding of it, right? Like you've traded enough and you've played the game for a league, or you've you played PoE kind of casually, where you understand what certain things are and what they mean, but you don't understand it well enough to know what you don't know really, and so you tend to be overconfident. Then the better you come to understand things and actually gain some real mastery, you realize how little you actually know. And that's certainly something I've come to realize. Crafting and making currency are things that I have focused on for literally over 25,000 hours over 12 years. I've made content for it for over a decade. I do know what I'm doing, and I would say that, being fair to myself, I'm one of the better people at it that play the game, at least if you look at it over time. So while it might be hard to imagine that the stuff that I'm doing is being done legitimately, every possible measure is taken in place to allow people to. I'm always streaming this stuff. When I'm making these YouTube videos, I'm recording them live so people can see them, to assure that I'm not doing 25 different versions and just posting the best one to gotcha people. I keep cost accounting all my stuff. All my VODs are publicly available, and hopefully something like this video will help you out. And if you guys want more of these, which I suspect you do, my God, I love just... I feel like it's incumbent on me to talk about the China issue. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it at the end of this video. It's been a problem. I've noticed it. I'm sure other people have noticed it. Well, now I look like an asshole. But he's European, so it's close. But as a side note, though, I've actually noticed like the hacking thing, the duped mirror items, people who come to your hideout, stand there for 15 minutes, and then like spam invite you, and then offer you like 2 divs less each time. Aside from that immediate reaction, which again, a little bit of a knee-jerk one there, but I can't really blame myself because over the past weekend, obviously I've been playing a lot of hours, and it has been very, very, very noticeable. PoE 1 was separated. China had its own game. So like the whole rest of the world had one version of PoE, and China had its own version of PoE. And they're like, I don't know if it's a combination of cultural differences or just gaming things, but it's been problematic for myself. And I feel like a lot of people have said the same thing to me. And I feel like it's one of those issues that's like, it's hard to address without trying to kind of have to tiptoe around it because it sounds xenophobic. It's nothing to do with like a race of people or anything like that. It's just, if games are separated and cultures and practices and standards of operation emerge around that, and they're distinctly separate entities for over a decade. Did this dude just say ping and then ask me for a question while I'm unbelievable. Did anyone have a BlackBerry? Like, the dude just pulled a fucking BBM on me. Ping. Wow. Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of issues with that, though. I know this is a weird way to sign off of a video like this, but I had to change my password twice today. I've been getting spammed, like RMT things. I get constantly people trying to buy mirror items that are all for like 4 divs, or they hit you up for like a 200 div item, and they go, is this actually... Is that actually a real price? Or like they'll offer 10x and then they'll treat you like you're the bad one. Or like, do you know, I had a guy from China come in my hideout the other day, and he asked to buy an 8 exalt map. And then before he traded, he goes, offer 7.5 exalts. And that happens like, on a much larger scale on like every trade I've done. I feel like making a trading etiquette video would be good, but I feel like it's a sensitive, like it's not like a prejudicial or racial based thing, anything like that. It's just, I don't know if anyone else has had an issue with it. I know people on my stream have told me they do. I don't know if it's an appropriate video to make for YouTube, especially because I don't know if it's dicey, but I also feel like as somebody who's made trading content for so long, it's kind of incumbent on me to address it or to speak about, to develop some kind of conversation about it, because there were people in my chat today that were saying they won't trade with Chinese player until the hacking thing and the botting thing gets fixed. And like the fact that has been a situation that's emerged after 3 weeks of playing together for the first time in a decade, I feel like there's got to be some kind of meeting of minds there to at least address that or talk about it. Anyways, let me know what you think about that. Hopefully this video helped some of you guys. I said I pull it in under 2 hours. As you could probably tell, I've had some frustrations with some of the trades I've had lately. But by and large, still doing great. The the breach rings are an excellent way to generate currency. If you can apply the same thought process I had there sort of tangentially to other markets, it's equally applicable. I think rings are a great starting place just because there's so many of those variables that I pointed out. And so many different permutations. I will be sure to link this here, just so that, link it in the video. I did have this is a very basic written guide as well that I did just while I was streaming the other day. It does give like a basic premise. It's, a page and a half long. And it just gives some rough idea of how to do that. I'll also link this, which is a crafting session, the one I mentioned where I make 2 mirrors. This is a 3-hour VOD where I make 360 rings at once. This session right here specifically was 46 divines of materials, and I made 350 divs off of it last time I counted. So it's been really nice, and I can do some more of these videos too. The reason that I had to focus on the mirror crafts in particular was because of people duping mirror items. If I didn't make it, then we could have got boxed out of the market by an illegitimate craft, and obviously with the amount of time and effort I put in, that wasn't something I was willing to do. 1 hour, 59 minutes, 27 seconds. All right, let's see, we got 30 seconds here. Yes, YouTube things. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's super long. If you did, throwing a like on it would be dope. Throw a sub if you want to see more. And, let me know what you guys like to see for some future content, because I'm open to suggestions. And I will try to time them in as best as I can. For the people on Twitch, we're still good. YouTube, signing out. 1 hour, 59 minutes, 55 seconds. Belton, GOAT!